Welcome back. A deep contraction has been recorded in mining production in April amid the lockdown to curb the spread of COVID-19. Stats SA data released earlier today shows production contracted by minus 47% annually in April from minus 18% annually in March. South Africa implemented stringent lockdown measures from the 27th of March, which nearly broke through economic activity to a near standstill. Between March and April, production in the sector contracted by minus 34.1% from minus 17.9%. The main negative contributors are the platinum group metals, iron ore, gold and manganese ore. The sector has endured various challenges from electricity supply constraints to policy uncertainty and now the effects of COVID-19. Mining was allowed to operate at 50% capacity during the lockdown. So far, the sector has recorded just over 600 positive COVID-19 cases. For more on the mining production data, we're joined on the line by Henk Langenhoven, who is the Chief Economist at the Minerals Council of South Africa. Henk, thank you so much for your time. Perhaps let's start off with your reaction to this figure. Were you surprised?
It is chilling to see these sort of numbers. I must say, I've been working for 40 years. I haven't seen something like this. But on the positive side, like you said, we were allowed to come back to 50%. And if you look at the index numbers, and remember what has been published today is actually the tonnage. So it's the actual volumes by tonnage that are measured in the production numbers. We are actually at 52, an index number of 52, where we were at 100 in January. So to a degree, we have achieved what was set out to happen. But it is still a tremendous decline. I must say the year-on-year comparison, which you just quoted, the 43 or 45%, is the most chilling one. The 4 months up to this year was down by about 34%. And if I may just say something about the platinum and gold mining sector, if you look at the tonnage, you may see these sort of declines. But if you look at values, because of the much better performance of the prices, of commodity prices, specifically the platinum group metals and gold, in value terms, our sales were actually slightly higher over this period, which sounds very contradictory. The problem is, if you can't produce, then of course it can't continue.
Henk, since you started looking at figures like this at the Mineral Council of South Africa, is this the worst you've ever seen it when you look at these figures?
Absolutely. There was, of course, the big disruption around the platinum strike a few years back, but wasn't close to this, and it was contained within the platinum sector. But yeah, and there was probably further back in the 70s and probably much further back numbers like this, but I presume this is the worst that we've seen.
So let's go back to the beginning of the year when you've had to make your assumptions in terms of where you see the mining sector going. To what extent have you had to adjust those figures on the back of the pandemic? Because most people have said that we've never seen this thing before. We've never experienced it, at least not over the past 20 years or so. How has that affected the figures that you've plotted for the way forward?
Well, if I can start right at the beginning, we were really hoping that 2020 will be better than 2019, which was in itself worse than 2018. And the reason for a little bit more optimism was that the first month or two was actually not that bad, and the end of 2019 was also looking quite positive. But when this happened, we did sit down, like the curse of all economists that has to have a crystal ball and talk about the future. And we thought the decline would be in the order of 5%. And that was, of course, just with the first announcement. But when it was extended, we were really, the only way we could really try and model what could happen was to look at all the information that we had for every commodity. And we came to a number, we adjusted the -5 to about -10. And what we see now is a -13, which is not too far off. Of course, worse than what we thought for the first 4 months. By the way, we also estimate that that would be the number for the year. You can imagine if you came from a number of 100, an index number, to 50, to then recover that, just mathematically, you need quite some time to recover that. Well, if I may, some of our big issues are logistics, transport and logistics, to get our product, apart from mining it, to get it to the markets in terms of rail and road transport. There's been many bottlenecks there. And also in terms of precious metals, we fly precious metals out of the country have always on passenger flights, which of course ceased to operate. So charters had to be arranged, etc. And the other issue is our workforce. We have, as they come back from the outlying areas, the Eastern Cape, in the country, we have to test them. If they come back from hotspots, we have to screen them at least, and if there's indications of the virus, then they are tested. And the other side is we have a number of our colleagues from neighboring countries. We think in total about 40,000 people work in South African mines from outside. We think about 10 to 15,000 left the country and have to come back. So you can imagine it's massive logistical operations that we have to execute, and that is not that easy to do overnight. You have and fortunately the mining sector, because of our legacies of TB and HIV/AIDS, it's probably been natural for us to test our people on a regular basis, and this challenge has just intensified the testing that we do. So to a degree, and ironically because of our legacies, we've been better prepared to actually safeguard our people coming back.
Henk, unfortunately, we're running out of time. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. That's Henk Langenhoven, who's the Chief Economist at the Mineral Council of South Africa, taking us through those latest figures coming out of Stats SA.